love when coaches, consultants, and professional service providers want to do big things in their business. They want to rise to the top and influence their market and the world around them. They want to have a greater impact and make a more lucrative income. Well, if this is you, welcome to Expert in You podcast, the show where I interview other experts and coaches, consultants, so that they can share their success strategies with you. We're going to talk about marketing and how to close more sales, how to get more premium clients, and how to really build your visibility in the market and scale your business like a boss. If this is you, welcome to the show. I want to ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell right now so you don't miss one episode. Grab your coffee and buckle up because we are ready to give it all to you to help you become the expert and get paid as the expert that you are. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Expert in You podcast. I'm your host, Ann Carden. And this week, I'm super excited to interview my guest, Erin Marcus, with Conquer Your Business. This is going to be such a great conversation. She is just going to bring the fire today. So, Erin, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yes, we've already had fun on your podcast. So I know this is going to be a great show. So I want to talk about really the areas that you play in, so to speak. So you work with entrepreneurs who are really looking to scale their business, similar to what I do, but we do also do very different things. You do some done-for-you services. You also help them create high-performing teams. Yes. And you do strategy and brand strategy. So those are some things that are different. So let's dive into that. But first, I want to know how you got into this. I know you have a great story.
How did I get into this? I got into this kicking and screaming. Isn't that how we do the best things in life? So my background is in corporate. I C-suite in corporate. My fancy title before I left was Senior Vice President of Business Development for the largest long-term care insurance only wholesaler in the country.
That's a long title.
Oh my God. It's one of those jobs that means absolutely nothing unless you're in the industry. But what I did was I created national and regional relationships as the middleman between the people who sell you your insurance and then the MetLife, Genworth, John Hancocks of the world, right? Who create the insurance. And my job was not to just put the deal together, but then I would go and work with the advisors on how to sell this product to their client, why it was important, marketing and sales, right? So basically, remember, it was long-term care insurance. So I made a living teaching advisors how to sell a product they hated to people who didn't want to talk about it.
That sounds fun.
Great. Good job, Erin. No, I was very lucky because I worked with amazing people. And I was invited through mentors into rooms that were above my pay grade. And the experience and the exposure and what I got to do, and then what I got to become a part of, taking a small 7-person, $4 million company through a merger and then an acquisition into becoming a $56 million company.
Awesome.
70 people, and being on the leadership team of that, and which was absolutely amazing. And when I left, and yes, there were tears and panic and all those things. The first business that I owned was a franchise.
But why did you leave? Let's talk about that. What made you decide to do that? You were super successful. You were getting to do some cool things.
And I will tell you, you do not want to be the one to tell your mother you're leaving a 6-figure bonus, great job, right? To just go try to do a thing. I left for a couple of reasons. Number one, I was bored out of my mind, which sounds weird. But what happens as a business gets bigger, each job gets smaller, right? As a business gets bigger, each position gets more and more and more specified. And so when we were a smaller entity, I was teaching and I was traveling and God help us.
You were getting to wear a lot I
I wore all the hats.
You were staying entertained.
Right. I did the real estate deal for our new office. Why would I do? I designed that new office. I put together the employee party. I put together client party. I did a million different things, which is the only way to keep me engaged, much to my boyfriend's chagrin.
Actually, that's the mind of an entrepreneur, right? Yes.
Once I learn how to play with something, I don't want to play with it anymore. Once I learn how it works, I lose interest in it. Looking back, the reason I stayed there for as long as I did was they really allowed me to be an entrepreneur within their company.
Right. An entrepreneur. Yes. An
entrepreneur. I created an entire department. Again, they brought me in on deals that were so above my pay grade and let me run with them. So I rose to the occasion and they allowed me to continue to do that. And they encouraged me to continue to do that. When I left, so number one, I was bored because we got to the point where I didn't get to learn new things constantly. And number two, the work started to feel weird. And the only word I can come up with is contrived. And I know that has a negative connotation to it. And I don't really mean it that way, but that's what was happening. I was watching as our company got bigger. We were involved with entities that were all trying to make a nickel on somebody else's dime by adding layers of complexity to a situation. That's just business.
That also happens when businesses get big, right?
It's just business, right?
Right.
I don't want to say it was a bad thing. It really wasn't. That's just how it works. But for me as an individual, it started to be like, I don't get it. Like, this is way harder than it has to be. It was making me restless. So not only was my job smaller, it was weirder, right? So again, after much tears and panic, I bought a franchise actually, because when I made the leap, I didn't go straight into what I'm doing now. And I really couldn't do what I do now if I hadn't had this intermediary experience. So I bought a franchise again in that senior services market.
Okay.
So it was a franchise that worked with families with aging parents, helping them through the downsizing process, along with the logistical nightmare of the stuff, the physical stuff, whether it's personal belongings, real estate belongings, all the different belongings that we end up not knowing what to do with when somebody moves out of a house after 50 years, right? And the business was great. And what I did was I got my business, my office, into the top 10 out of 200 offices in about 18 months.
That's awesome.
What I knew how to do is to build a business because I learned that. Right. I had learned that in my corporate experience. And I got my MBA in marketing and executive leadership while I was in corporate still. And so I knew how to build a business. So what was happening is, even though my franchise was doing very well, what I really found myself enjoying was spending my time. I had been engaged by the franchisor to train new franchises. So as people bought their offices, they would come and spend a week with me and I would teach them how to do it. And I would talk at their conferences about how am I doing what I'm doing. And then as I was speaking to get clients, trying to speak at the networking groups and the chambers and the places that I would network in, what would happen is when I wanted my turn, they would be like, yeah, we get what you do for a living, but why are you making money? Like, how are you doing that? They didn't want to.
We have the same, we really do come from almost identical backgrounds and identical roads and paths. It's pretty interesting. Yes. Keep going.
That's so funny, right? Like, yeah. We'll refer you to our parents when they need you, but why are you making money when none of us are? Why is it working for you? And what happened was I was getting two things at the same time, juxtaposition of two things. Number one, there was no barrier to entry in the business model that I had, right? There is nothing you need to go help people downsize.
Right.
So the competition I was up against was working under the table. I wasn't. I had 15 employees. I'm paying taxes in Cook County, Chicago, Illinois, right? Welcome to Illinois, the business prevention state, right? And I'm paying workers' comp on 15 people. And I'm paying all of these things. The franchise fees I had zero problems with because they delivered. I have zero that was an expense that I was happy to pay. But my competition wasn't. So you have zero barrier to entry. And in that world, my competition were very nice people. It wasn't like they were doing a bad job. They were just doing it on the side so they didn't have to pay taxes and all the things. I was running my business like a business, and I was up against people running it like a hobby and working under the table, but they're not bad people.
Right.
And at the same time, you have the devaluation of used goods. So when I started my business, when I would meet a client and I would look to see what they were no longer keeping, we could sell what they were no longer keeping. It would pay for all the services. And 6 years later, a very short 6 years later, we'd be lucky if the donation would take it. And so you have this socioeconomic problem with my business model. And at the same time, and what we were doing was a logistical nightmare. Difficult. If you've ever been through this with your parents, like difficult situation. We're in the middle of everybody's trauma because there's not much fun about this.
Right.
So on one hand, you have this. And on the other hand, I'm having conversations with the moving company I'm hiring to work with my clients and helping them with their marketing and helping them grow their business. And they're just as excited as they could be. I don't know. Where do you want to spend your time? Right.
Right.
And so after a couple years of kicking and screaming, and the reason I say kicking and screaming is I wasn't thrilled with the coaching business, the label. I didn't want to throw my hat in the ring because even though I had some coaches along the way who I loved and who helped me immensely, I was also watching, again, I come out of corporate, I come out of financial services, I come out of a public parent oversight, I come out of an annually audited entity, right? Like rules, no conflict of interest, zero conflict of, there was a lot of very appropriate oversight in my head. And I'm watching coaches I'm watching too much exposure in the industry that I didn't think was being done right. People trying to claim to be able to teach you how to do something they've never done or teach you how to do something they really didn't know how to do.
Exactly.
And so you
and I could talk about that all day.
Right. And I had a hard time with it. And here's the thing. My life has changed for the better because of coaches who are amazing. So it's not an industry-wide situation.
Right.
And so I finally decided, where do I really want to spend my time? I don't want to be tied geographically to this business. A difficult business to run for low profit margins, and all those reasons that I gave you. So eventually I now look back, and someone was very kind and helped me reframe how I look at this. But I for a very long time, I called 2018 Erin's year of failure. It gets better. I had left corporate where I had a very successful, amazing career. And then I had this franchise that was top 10 accolades, bonuses, very successful. And then the first year I tried to do something completely on my own, I made $11,000. I mean, it fell apart. And what I now realize was it was my year of figuring out what I really should be doing. Right. That was my year of testing and learning all the things I didn't want to do.
Ooh, I love that you're talking about that. I love that you're actually saying that, your year of testing. I'm going to use that, actually.
Please, go ahead. It's
so true, because I always say, a year of process, right? You can't go from the first rung on the ladder to the top of the ladder without going through every level.
I wish somebody would have explained that to me better. I wouldn't have felt so crappy at the time. It's not.
No, I get it, because it really is, you have this idea when you come into this industry. And Erin, I know we talked about this.
The people on Instagram.
Yeah, that's true. I have bought and Facebook. Yes. I built and sold 5 businesses, but when I came into the coaching and consulting industry, it was a whole different ball game. And part of it too is because we decided to go virtual. So you and I both knew how to build businesses offline. In fact, I started my coaching business offline. It sounds like you did too. But then I kept hitting this ceiling, right? And it wouldn't go any further. And so I knew that I needed to expand and come online, but that is a whole different animal. And it
was not my animal. It
wasn't mine either. And it took me a long time to really get how to make this industry work and how to not just make it work, but how to do it virtually. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I'll give you one better. The additional problem that I had was I was a professional juvenile delinquent. Okay.
Okay, you didn't share that.
I call it a professional because I made money at it. I spent the first 20 years of my life in Chicago public schools, making sure nobody knew what I was doing. Okay.
So then to shift and now you can't build your business in a vacuum, right?
It took me. Now I love people. I absolutely love meeting people. I love learning all about the people. So it's not like a introvert situation. Mm-hmm. It's a nobody should know what you're doing thing. Like I grew up in Chicago. My dad was a cop. You always leave someone home during the funeral because the ads in the paper tell you where the funeral was and the burglars read the ads and go to the empty houses. Like this is the world I grew up in. I understand these things.
Oh
you
my
don't tell people what you're doing or where you are not because they don't care, because I do believe most of them don't care, because it's not safe.
Right.
It's not safe.
But, there's a lot of truth to that even now. I mean, as much as we're out there putting ourselves out there and as much as we talk about, the money and all the things. There's a reason
I have large dogs that don't like other human beings. I mean, this was not an accident.
Yes. It's part of the world. It's
part of the world. Yeah. And that was the world that was drummed into my head. So I had a very, very, very hard time. I don't know what you want to call it, adopting, acknowledging, accepting social media.
Yes.
It wasn't my default. And it also wasn't my default. Mm-hmm. My default, even all those years later, was to not tell people what I was doing.
Right. But you know what? I actually want to talk about that for a minute, because one of the things that it just blew my mind when I got on social media, I know you can identify with this, is everybody talking about how much money they're making.
There's no way.
And I, as a business owner, when I owned businesses, you didn't discuss those things.
That's true.
Your people didn't even know how much.
That's society changing. And some of that, truthfully, I'm very transparent with my finances because I want people to know the truth. What's possible, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah, so but didn't you find that weird? Like I found that so weird. Like I'm okay with it too now because I'm used to it, but I found that really weird.
I was lucky. I was very lucky in corporate, that job that I love so much. They were very transparent and very honest. They were very high integrity, where everyone at this level got that money and everyone at that level got that money. So I think I had early exposure to the transparency and the high integrity of treating people equally at levels. Not like, hey, there's a woman, I can get away with paying her less. Like not doing that.
Right.
That helped with that. But yes, totally weird talking about money. Well, here's the other thing. We're both very nice, good Midwestern people.
That's true. That is true. Yes, we think differently.
So how many times have you, I will start my conversations with people so how much money do you want to make? And it could be 20 minutes later and I still can't get them to answer the question. They won't even answer the question, right?
Yeah, right. No, true.
It's totally a thing. So, so I mean, I came into the business kicking and screaming and so much about it was so unnatural to me, which led to that year of figuring it out. But kind of like your journey, once it's dialed in, you can iterate on it.
Yes.
Right. Once I got it dialed in 2019. So here's the other piece. So I started, it's called Conquer Your Business. The first version was Conquer the Conversation because of my background in communication. I have a journalism degree, right? Everything's communication. So I have a lot of training, especially working with seniors, with having difficult conversations. And then I also realized, so two things happened. One, I realized I didn't want to be in the middle of everyone's difficult conversations for the rest of my life. And two, right? That didn't sound like fun. That was a bad plan. And two, putting myself out there about, let's get your messaging dialed in, because one of the things people come to me for is their messaging. It's one of the ways people are like, oh, I need messaging. What I learned was, yeah, messaging is part of your problem, but you don't know how to run a business.
Yeah, no, right.
So again, going back to what I know how to do, instead of pigeonholing the problem, right? That was my version of trying to treating the symptom, not the problem.
Yeah.
And once I realized that, I was able to create what we have now.
I want to talk about that a little bit too, because one of the things that really holds people back is they just don't take the action. I was just having a conversation with my mastermind group today about that, because I have some people that are kind of new to business. And I said, look, you have to take enough action that we can get data.
Right.
You have to take enough action so we can say this works, this doesn't work, this is where we need to shift. Until you do that, we're guessing, right? You're guessing.
That is the absolute antithesis to how corporate works.
Yes.
It's the absolute opposite, because in corporate, large companies are very risk adverse.
Yes.
They're very risk, keep me off the front page of the Tribune for the wrong reason. Right. They don't make a move until I tease my boyfriend. I hear his meetings. They set up a group of 7 people, and they're wonderful people. He works for a wonderful company, and they had 7 people set up for a series of 3 meetings to come up with a name for an internal program.
That drives me crazy. I can't.
Right. How about if we go?
I have to be able to move fast.
Right. And so the difference that kills entrepreneurs, killed me, had to learn to get past it, is we test in the marketplace. You don't test in the office. You test in the marketplace. Right. Take the action. I have launched more things that nobody's bought, and everyone on the team was horrified. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Now I have more information.
Yeah.
And test. Marketing is testing. Entrepreneurship is testing the marketplace, analyzing the data. And that's so the tagline for my business is be in charge, take action, get results.
Yes.
And that's the process. Be in charge. It's not about controlling anybody else. I tell people all the time, you cannot underestimate how much I don't care what anyone else does. Zero interest in controlling anybody else. But be in charge, meaning make decisions.
Right.
Make decisions, be in charge. This is the thing that has to happen. Take the risk, be in charge. That's my culmination for that feeling. Take the action.
Yeah.
All the action, more action. I don't care how much action you think you need to take.
Take more.
That's where we start, right?
Yes.
All the action. People seriously underestimate the action and then get results. These are not the results you want. These are getting results. And then you analyze those results and you go back to the beginning.
I love that we're talking about this. So good. And that I actually love the name of your business, Conquer Your Business, because that is exactly what business is. And let's face it, business overall, when you really get it dialed in, is pretty boring. I mean, it's kind of rinse and repeat.
And that's hard for people like me.
It's hard for most entrepreneurs, which is why they don't stay focused and they don't get traction, because they're always venturing off.
Well,
and there's a time to venture off.
Well, the idea that if it's not exciting, it can't be good.
Right.
That's a hard one for me.
Yeah. I think that is a struggle for a lot of entrepreneurs. And so at some point you just have to say, look, if I want this to be successful, I have to stay on this path and I have to course correct a little bit, but I have to get this working first. And hey, I'm all about diversity and I'm all about multiple income streams and all of those things, but you can't do all of that at one time. And so many entrepreneurs try to do that.
Well, oh my God. We have a new lead magnet. The old one's still available somewhere. I don't know how to create multiple streams of income in your business. That whole idea of multiple streams of income, I think as I get older, I'm a little bit more conspiracy theory person than I used to be, but I've never seen a way to keep more people from reaching any kind of success at all than by pushing this idea that you need multiple streams of income in order to be successful, because the people they pushed it to were the people who don't have any streams of income.
That's true. Yeah, and that's the wrong audience for that strategy.
Multiple streams of income. Yes. Your investment portfolio, your real estate portfolio, your business, your spouse's steady salary, multiple streams, divestiture, asset allocation, all of the fancy words.
Right.
But you cannot build millions having an essential oil business, a business coaching business, and a part-time Uber Eats job.
Right.
That's not what they meant.
Right. No, that's right. No, I mean, we're talking about everything should be related. When you're doing in fact, this is what I teach is you have your core offer and everything else builds off from that. It's a natural fit. So this feeds this and this feeds this and this feeds this. And so you're not out there trying to market yourself 100 different ways. It's for example,
using the marketplace.
That's it. So you work with entrepreneurs and you have a stream of income that is a system. Maybe you're an affiliate and they know they're going to need that system. They're going to need that CRM. And so now you're an affiliate. That's what we're talking about here.
Exactly.
I have them, you have them.
Or build your vertical with your ascension model, build your horizontal with your, associated, affiliated services, build referrals. You don't need to make a nickel off of everybody's dime, but some people you should be getting and giving referral fees to. Build your affiliate links.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all multiple streams of income within a business without confusing the marketplace.
That's right. And if one goes, if one takes a hit, you've still got these other things that you're doing. And so, I think, I'm glad we're talking about this because I think it is confusing for a lot of people. And I do see a lot of entrepreneurs going down multiple rabbit holes at the same time. And then they wonder why they're frustrated, why they're stressed out, why their life is chaotic. They're giving up everything.
I mean, even if you just go back to context switching, right? Whenever your brain tries to do more than one thing, you lose 20% of your capacity. Period, hard stop, no exceptions, right? So if I'm doing one thing at a time, I have 100% capacity to focus on it. If I start doing two things at a time, cut off 20%, I now have 80%, and we're dividing that in half. So I now have two things get 40% of my capacity. That's not just a time blocking thing. It's a overarching, it's a lifestyle situation.
Well said. Yes. So true. And yet it is a big, big problem with people. But that's what you do. You help them.
Well, it's the people and it's also the people who, if you notice, it's the people trying to get attention of the lowest common denominator that is marketing that way. Right?
That's true. Yes, that's true.
So 2019 is when we started it, and everything since then, I'm on what I call my third iteration of this business, right? I started my business very much in the how-to category, how to do this, how to do that. And then with my own personal journey, I added the success mindset piece to it, understanding that one of the other things that really tripped me up coming out of corporate was not understanding that as an entrepreneur, how I was thinking was going to be the key to it all, how I viewed myself, imposter syndrome, all of those things. Because what I realized, the horrible truth was I was highly successful in corporate. And then when I became an entrepreneur, what I realized was that I was highly successful on a very narrow path that somebody else created, right? So that was an interesting, self-reflection moment. And you realize once the bumpers are out of gutters, the wheels come off the bus, it gets a little nuts, right? So, so I brought in the success mindset piece a couple years into it. And then now just this year, again, analyzing what's going on in the market, analyzing what is the intersection between my client's biggest problem that they need solved now and what it is that I know how to do. We now have added some really cool implementation pieces to not just helping people with the strategic plan and the marketing and the business strategy, but now implementation of a variety of those pieces so that they can actually achieve their goals a little bit faster and less chaotically.
I love that too, because one of the things, and I know you and I are so on the same page, is this: I'm always looking for ways to speed results. I'm always looking for new ways that I can move people even faster, because as new things come out, as people discover things, and if we stay at the top of our game and we stay in the game, at which a lot of people don't, they kind of have some success and they rest on their laurels, and you'll see them selling the same thing for a very long time. It's like, just throw more money at Facebook ads or at Instagram ads. But the people that, again, we talked about this, it comes from experience that we know to do this. And you can't ever just take for granted what the success that you've had. You've got to look at where the industry is going and what the needs are going to be for the industry to stay relevant.
Absolutely. And I define, one of the things that I look for is, how fast can I get you results? The faster I can get you your results, the more valuable I am.
And that also helps us choose the right clients.
Absolutely.
Have you chosen the wrong clients?
All the time.
Not wrong as people. I'm not talking about wrong as people.
They're great people, but
it's too long of a process. And so they're expecting, they're expecting these magic results. And you're like, you have to just go through the process,
it's
right?
Managing the expectations. And I think the mistakes that I've made as far as clients that I've chosen is when I can see a great path. Because again, I don't have my emotional attachment to their business. It's not that they're not smart. It's just I'm looking at it from a different view. Right. When I can see a great business with a great path and an easy path, and I underestimate the personal blocks or someone, whether they're actually willing to do the work.
That's a big one.
Right? Because to me, it looks so easy.
Right.
I'll tell you this, because you know how direct I am. I had a client and I love her. She did amazing. And this was in my early days when I was taking a lot more beginners, and I absolutely love her. She was literally making $300 a month in her business. And by the end of the year, she's making $9,000 a month in her business. And she's grown her business, and she's an amazing person. And she was really nervous to pull the trigger because she had had an experience with a coach previously that she wasn't happy with. So I totally understand. And she kept saying to me, well, what's the guarantee? What's the guarantee? What's the guarantee?
Oh, yeah, that's a mindset.
Right. It's fair. It's absolutely fair. And I finally looked at her. I go, here's my guarantee. I guarantee that if I owned your business, it'd be making money.
I love that. That's awesome.
And she was adorable. It was someone who I had the rapport with at the time.
Yeah. I love that.
The path was obvious and she was amazing. So I knew she could do it. But I watch, it breaks my heart over and over when I'm watching people making money despite themselves instead of because of themselves.
Yeah.
But I'm also watching people not make money because of themselves.
That's right. And that happens. That really does happen. And that mindset is a huge piece of it. And I know we talked about, especially coming from corporate or coming from a job, they have this employee mindset, this employee mentality. Nothing.
Can you give, my commitment, people ask me, why are you so successful? And the horrible truth that shocked me was it was not because of what I was doing, but because of who I was being. And my just abject commitment to figuring out what is stopping, and I do this a couple times a week. This is the process. Part of my journaling process. What do I want? What do I want? And I get real specific about what do I want. And then there's 3 questions. What do I have to do? Who do I have to be? And what do I have to believe in order to make this happen? And I never in a million years anticipated how much who do I need to be and what do I need to believe is the difference maker. I'm a huge action taker. Like this was never going to be an issue.
Right.
So I underestimated. So if you want to know why am I able to do what I do, it's the massive, massive, massive action combined with a commitment to forever investigating who do I need to be and what do I need to believe and how do I step into it Where am I not being a little more brave? Where am I telling myself I can't do something? Where am I holding myself back in whatever way?
Yes.
And that's it. I mean, it's that exercise over and over and over again.
I love that. And I also love too that you hit on you have to take massive action. You have to take massive action. I don't know why entrepreneurs think that they can leave a job and come in to build a business, and I'll work whatever hours I want, and I'll just do this whenever it works for me. And I'll drive the Uber. And when I have a little bit of time, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that if you've got to have the cash flow, right?
But, absolutely.
But look, I built a business. My first business I built because I got up at 3 a.m. and I made dolls. I had a global doll business. I was running a manufacturing company. I got up at 3 a.m. and made dolls.
What do you want?
I was a mom.
And how bad do you want it?
Yeah. How bad do you want it? I was up late at night. I would be working 10:30, 11. I worked on the weekends. I would go do shows on the weekends. And if you're not willing to do that, it's not going to be successful, because you've got to get the traction.
Right. And you don't have to always run yourself into the ground. That's not what
we're talking about. No.
It's not what and people will try to say, oh, you would think I'm supposed to work 24. You can't work 24/7.
Right.
But if you're not willing to ever put in the work.
Yes.
It doesn't happen by accident, and there's no such thing as build it and they will come.
No. And sometimes too, and this is something people need to know, as a business grows, there are times your business will require a lot. Like, you will feel like you're living it. And then there are other times things are humming along and you don't rest on your laurels. That's not what I'm talking about, but you get a breather, right? You get a little bit of a breather.
And your capacity for handling it grows.
Yes, absolutely.
What used to throw me for months now barely throws me for a minute.
Right. That's true. That's true. It's like a muscle. You work it.
Right. There was weekends and a holiday and credit card processing and bank not processing. And it was a big cluster.
Yes.
And that used to be something that I would have, oh my God, it's not. And I'm like, crap. Well, thank you.
Part of it.
Thank you, PNC Bank, for your 1-day loan and putting this all through. And now today it's fixed, right? Like, who cares?
Yeah, right. I love it. This has been such a great conversation, Erin. Thank you so much. How can people get a hold of you?
Make it really, really easy. It's all in one place. Just go to conqueryourbusiness.com. They can grab my Ready Yet podcast and listen to your episode there. They can grab blogs. They can reach me. They can find socials. It is all at conqueryourbusiness.com.
Well, you are doing such great work, and it's been such an honor and a pleasure and so much fun to have you on and to get to know you. And thank you so much for everything you're doing. You are a rock star, girl. You're a rock star.
Thank you so much for chatting with me. This is awesome. This is our beginning. This is our beginning.
Everyone, thank you so much for another episode. Please share it. I always say sharing is caring. I know you hear me say that all the time, but look, people need to hear these podcasts. We're not just doing that so we can hear ourselves talk, right? We already,
a little bit.
Yes, no, a little bit. Yeah. No, we really are trying to put value out there for people and help them and help people not go through the same mistakes you and I went through.
Right.
And the same
just don't do what I did. Right.
That's just right. Don't do what I did either.
You'll be fine.
Just listen to what we're saying now. All right. It's been so great having you on. Thank you. And everyone, go rock your business. God bless you. Have an amazing rest of the week. Bye-bye. If you've enjoyed this episode, I want to invite you to go check out a free training that I have at expertinu.us. It is a training that I have on how you can get ultra premium dream clients, scale your business, get more freedom, and really simplify your business and multiply your money. So go check that out. And again, that is expertinu.us. I want to thank you for being here with me this week. I hope you found massive value. Please always leave a comment, feedback, or a question. We check them all. And I want you to go rock your business and make sure you join us again next week. God bless you. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.